Howdy, chat. Hey, Jogi, what's up? Um, not much is going on really. If I'm being frank with you, um, I I was gonna do a podcast yesterday, but then I fucked up some scheduling stuff. So now I am just doing a solo one, which is gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting for sure. I think I've only ever done one other solo one before, and it turned out pretty well. I think some people liked it, so we'll see if people like this one too. I got a couple topics I was gonna talk about, so that's gonna be cool. And I'm also gonna be taking AMAs, like just ask me whatever you want, and I'll answer as truthfully as I physically can, as well. So the first thing I kind of wanted to start talking about was genres. Genres are just how we define music. If for anyone who is this far into my content creation and doesn't know, but genres are like really really important, um, because of a couple things. Well, it all depends as well, because like, are you like me and you want to know everything about anything with music, or are you like most people where you just kind of listen to whatever, and you just kind of like are people chilling listening to like fucking top 40s and stuff, which is nothing wrong with that. It just kind of depends on what you want. But for someone like me, um, genres are really really important. Not only are they really really important, but they're like almost crucial to being able to do what I do on YouTube at least. um, and like it's really important, because how else do you categorize music? You know what I mean? Like, how else are you supposed to categorize it? Like, how am I, like, without like a long-winded explanation? Because I mean, obviously, it's pretty easy to tell the difference between like Jay Z and fucking like Knocked Loose. But like, with just being able to say like, oh, Jay Z's rap and Knocked Loose is hardcore or metal or whatever, without just saying that, it'd be like a bit of a longer explanation. And genres are really important. They get a lot of shit often, especially in the metal world, and I understand why, but I kind of hate that they do. Like, because they get a lot of shit, and I get why, because people will come and be like, actually, didn't you know that this is rattle off like 20 adjectives, and then just be like, you're fucking stupid if you didn't know that. And like, that's how people are, especially in metal. And it's like, all right, bro, the guitar goes bring bring, and the fucking like, and the vocalist goes like, so like, I'm just kind of calling it what I think it is. And like, there's those like really annoying, just in general shit people. But then there's like, also people who are just kind of like, like kind of me, that just want to know stuff. And I think it's like a really important thing that we have to categorize music. Because otherwise, I mean, how else are you going to categorize it without like a long winded explanation? And I think there's a lot of uses to it, like describing to people the difference between like 100 gex, for instance, and like, I don't know, let's just say like Kesha, I guess. Like, describing the difference between those two. I mean, generally speaking, they're under the same kind of umbrella of like pop music, but they're quite different in a lot of ways. So, without having like a long winded explanation, I think genre terms are really, really important in that regard. Same thing with like the difference between Sioux Space Cowboy and like Knock Loose. Like, they are the same genre, they are even like the same subgenre almost. But Knock Loose describes himself as just hardcore, whereas Sioux Space Cowboy, they describe themselves as just scrams or chaos core. So there's like a difference. And at the end of the day, it's mostly useless knowledge. It's not that important, but I think it's a really cool like way of describing music in general. I think it's interesting. I also want to keep on the music topic, unless anybody else has any more ideas. Um, just like talking about music, I'm gonna be really interested what happens when stuff comes back, like when we're able to go to shows again, because I feel like the market for music is just going to be absolutely fucked, like for live music, because of the fact that like it's been gone for so long. Um, it's just I feel like it's going to be absolutely, completely, like just destroyed. Like the competition, at least not at a local level probably, but at like at like a non-local level, it's going to be absolutely like fucky, like for national acts. Like the ones that are going to do well are the ones that can sell. And so it's going to be I think it's going to be interesting to see like what bands are able to book what and that sort of thing, and to see like what the demand is, because I think music has even like kind of changed over the past year 100%. And so I think it's going to be an interesting kind of like tale and like an interesting recount to see like how audiences have changed listening to music, and like how people have changed like their perspective on music in general, because music I think is something that's either care about a lot, or you like just are lukewarm on the subject, you know what I mean? Like you get kind of one of the two. And so I think in general with music, with the pandemic, I think a lot's changed because of that. So I think when we come back to being kind of, you know what I mean, like back into live shows and back into that whole experience, festivals, like I think it's going to change, because I think you see a lot of bands who focused mainly on their internet following, like let's say Victims for instance. And then you see that like, yeah, it sucks that they can't tour, and they were talking about how like it really sucks that they can't tour because that's a big portion of their income. But they have this huge online following to the point of where like any song that they put out gets a lot of listens and a lot of views on YouTube and a lot of, whatever, gets a lot of plays. And so I think that the whole sphere of like the importance of the album cycle of just like teasing, then releasing, then touring, then repeating. Like I think that's going to change. I don't know how, but I think because touring is still going to 100% be the most money making aspect of releasing anything. But I also think that this year has shown that having an online presence is extremely important, and that having a presence that revolves around kind of the internet in and of itself is really valuable. You see that with bands like Death Grips and like Infant Annihilator and Victims, where their online following is really big, and almost more so than their shows. Like you still see Death Grips playing venues, kind of like, I mean, if you're from Seattle, kind of like El Corazon, but like, just kind of not dive bars, but smaller venues. And but their online um, following is huge. It's fucking massive. Um, I'm just kind of gonna be really curious to see like what bands decide to focus on a lot of, like outside of their normal cycle. Because I mean, there's no way tours are going away. There's no way playing shows are going away at all. But I think there's going to be a distinct like change of perspective of bands like trying to focus more on their online brand, simply because of this. Because there's like really no way around not doing it anymore. Like especially right now, but also just in general, there's like really, it would be really hard pressed to argue that the internet is not like an extremely important tool in being a musician nowadays, especially with the really shitty, like, um, the really shitty like payouts that Spotify and Apple Music give. I mean, let's just be real here. Like the difference between the two is like point 0.1 of a cent at this point. Like they both pay like shit. And so I think there's no way that at this point an online like band that doesn't like blow up to the size of Infinite Annihilator could survive. And even still, those guys are all in live bands. So like, actually, I don't know if Alan is. I don't know if Sir Dickel is, but I know their drummer and their guitarist are in a live band called Black Tongue. And but yeah, no, I think a lot of bands are gonna really now see the value in having like a really poppin' like internet following, kind of the virality of it. I mean, you're kind of seeing it now with 100 gex. Like fucking every Anthony Fantano video at this point is just like, bro, have you heard more of 100 gex? And he's like, yes, please leave me alone. Like 100 gex is fucking everywhere. And like it's great because they're wonderful musicians, but like it really just goes to show like how influential having an online following is, and just how much like, even though you might not have like this really huge like group of people willing to go to shows, you still have this huge group of people listening to your music and putting plays, and that helps you get like sponsorships, record deals if you're after that sort of thing, music videos, stuff like that. And you still have an elevated following outside of that too, but I mean, you see there's like some bands that just tour, like, and that's all they do. I mean, I think a good example of that is Census Fail. Census Fail tours like non-stop, and but like almost every venue they go to, they sell really well, but they have like no internet following. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say no, but they have a decreased internet following comparatively to other bands of their size. Whereas if they had like a more pronounced internet following, I think they would sell even better. But I would also take a lot of effort because, you know, things take effort, sadly. It is me. It is the me, Retro Bros. It is. Is it the you, Retro Bros? Um, for anyone listening to this on audio later on, I am doing this live on twitch.tv/quartz_TV. If any of you want to catch these in person and ask me questions. I don't know if this solo podcast does well, then I think I'm going to make it more of a point to do more solos, because like I like doing them, and it's just kind of a stream of consciousness for me to ramble about whatever the fuck I'm going to ramble about, but like they're fun. I like doing them, and they're a lot less stressful than like having to schedule an interview with somebody, because the interviews aren't going to be going anywhere by no means. Even if this one like pops the fuck off for whatever reason or whatever, like they're not going anywhere because I like doing the interviews. But scheduling an interview every single week with a musician is stressful, and it's a little bit unrealistic for me, especially right now, because yeah, right now I am at the end of my schooling, thank God, and I think like literally April 2nd I graduate, but like this is the last week of assignments, is this upcoming week. Well, I mean, I guess it'll be this week when this releases, week when it releases, but you know, and it's gonna, I'm excited. I get to actually relax, and you guys will be seeing more of me, live stream audience and also YouTube audience probably. I'll actually be able to finish the video I've been planning for like a fucking month now. Oh my god. Chad, are you excited? I get to actually finish a video. Oh my god. I'm gonna talk about Hyperpop. I don't think the majority of my like core audience will care as much because it's not metal or punk, but I'll care, and that's what matters. At the end of the day, like, that's what I end up. Oh, thank you for the follow, Annie. I appreciate that. Like, that's what I care about at the end of the day, though, is like, I care about about oh shit, I just fucked my whole setup up. God damn it. No, I didn't, but I wanted to move my alerts to over here because Annie's follow got hidden by my camera. I apologize. But yeah, no, like I like it's interesting because I'm gonna be able to actually like focus on stuff and do stuff. And thank you, Retro Rose. I'm glad you will care. Um, yeah, no, like because I want to talk about hyperpop really badly because it's a phenomenon that like in the music world that there's not many much other like there's not really another good comparison point other than really like you can make the argument for dubstep, I guess, of like a really abrasive um like almost parody-esque genre coming up. I mean like listen, I was gonna say like you could almost make the argument for new metal, but then I was like, no, you could make the argument for new metal because Limp Bizkit exists. But zing. Anyways, I'm gonna get someone yelling at me because I know I have a lot of friends who like Limp Bizkit. um, but yeah, no, yeah, no. Like I think hyperpop is a really interesting, like almost isolated thing because it's this really abrasive out there genre of music that takes in inspiration from genres like noisecore and and fuck what like noisecore, pop, like nightcore, and like metal sometimes if it's like 100x metal and some other ones, but and like it takes in all these inspirations and then makes it like a pop banger, and it makes no sense and it's great, and the genre's blowing up like somehow. I don't know how the genre is like blowing up by every means of like popular music trends. The genre should not be doing well. But the genre is doing good. Not only that, but 100 gex is like really a pretty abrasive for the genre. If you like look into the genre as a whole, most of the time the genre is like pretty chill. Like it's very much like kind of got an R&B vibe to it where it's like it's a little aggressive. The backing track has some like glitchy aspects to it and a bit of a blown out bass. But like it's kind of like whatever. But then there's 100 gex which is like, no, we're going to do noisecore and like have metal influences and like, you know, all this other shit. And like and they're like the most, besides like Sophie and like 303 and maybe Rebecca Black, like they're pretty much like the most popular like hyperpop band. Like that makes no sense. It makes no sense by anything that is like historically what happens in the music industry. It makes no sense. But here we are doing that. Here we are just defining all odds, which is great. I love it. Like I'm so happy that they're having success, and that hyperpop in general is having success, because I think it's a really interesting case study on like how music isn't like solved yet. You know what I mean? I mean, you hear boomers talking about that all the fucking time. Like, they don't make them like they used to. Back in my day, we used to have rock bands like coked out of their mind and fumble around on stage. And god damn it, that was the American experience. Can I get an amen? Like, but like, music has been great. Like I think, but I also think that there have been not as many like standout bands or artists aside from like what kind of is the status quo outside of like, you know, Death Grips, for instance. And like you could argue Code Orange, because Code Orange did get they did get nominated for a Grammy one year, so I guess you could argue Code Orange. But like in general, the music otherwise hasn't had any like, you know, Def Leopards or any Rushes, you know, that sort of stuff recently, where it's like mass appeal and like good musicianship. You usually only get one or the other, especially for like rock and stuff like that. But I think 100 gex and hyperpop just kind of proves to people like, nah, man, music's not solved. Like, there's gonna be a lot of different shit. I think the only other like kind of wacky musician was probably Skrillex, but even he was just taking like what was happening over in Europe in the EDM scene over there and just being like, oh, let's just bring that to America, and then they brought it to America. Like, I don't know. I think all it proves is that music will never cease to have something different come out of it. You know what I mean? Like, music is nowhere close to solved, and I think this just proves that aspect around it. Um Otherwise though, like, okay, I'm gonna shout out some bands really quickly that you guys should check out since I have a few people watching me live. Um I'm going to shout out my boys band, Ishigurs, Ishigurz. It's Landon's band. If you guys don't remember, Landon was on the last episode of the Wiretap. Wonderful band. Um, I would recommend listening to Tyrone by Slow Tie. That album. It's a pretty decent album. It's not, in my opinion, as good as his first album, which was Grit. What was it? I think it was Britain Was Never Great or something like that. Right? Nothing Great About Britain. Yeah. Um, Very good artist. Very, very fucking good. Slow Tie is possibly one of the best rappers in the game right now. Um, and I'm gonna recommend. Okay, so this one's weird. They go by Osquin. Everywhere else except for on Spotify and I think Apple Music, they go by Parker, but with no vowels except for it's like P4RKR. Um, so look them up. Look them up. She is a wonderful hyperpop artist, and I cannot recommend her enough. And then I would probably recommend. I'm gonna do one more. I would probably recommend. Um, if you guys want to listen to my album of last year, my like first choice of last year, Dorian Electra's My Agenda. Very good album. Um, Otherwise though, if you want to know where my hat is from, it's by a band called Cut Both Ways. I love them. They're a wonderful hardcore band. Anyways, on to different topics. Dude, like, let's think about music. What else can I talk about music? Oh, you know what? I know what I can talk about. Why my videos on rap, don't do as well as my videos on like metal or punk, even like extreme metal, like videos that have like gore grind bands in them, like videos that, in all honesty, should not be like doing well. And I'm gonna tell you the reason why that's the case. Even though by all technicalities, rap should be like technically doing better because it's the more popular genre. The main reason is because I built my audience off of doing album reviews, and I only really reviewed albums that I liked, listening to. It makes sense. I would like go and explore other bands and explore other genres and stuff like that, but for the most part, I would just kind of like, be people chilling and just kind of doing my own thing, and listening to bands that I like and music that I like. Well, the issue with that is that at the time, especially, I was very much just like a metalhead. I was not much of a exploration. That was like right at the beginning when I started to really like rap. Um, like after my first couple of videos, which were kind of shitty and duds, uh, I I reviewed I reviewed a band called Not, which is a NOTT. Their main they used to be a solo band, but now they have members and are doing like a live stuff, which is really cool. Um, Tyler Campbell, he was on my podcast. It was actually a really good podcast. I would recommend you guys listen to it. And also listen to the album that called The Wretched Sounds. Very, very fucking aesthetic album. Um, And I reviewed that, and a lot of people liked it. And so I did a punk starter pack, and then I did this series called Discover Weekly, which I really liked, where I would just go on my Discover Weekly and like roll a dice and pick like a couple bands, and then I would just like review those bands, and it was pretty cool. I found some really good music from it, but YouTube did not really care about it, which is fine. I don't really care that much, but and then I did a MySpace Deathcore era like starter pack. I did a review of Arizona by Vane, and I did a review of Year of the Snitch by Death Grips, which ironically got way less views than my Vane review. What I'm trying to tell you is that I started my channel off as being like mainly alternative genres, being mainly talking about like punk and metal, and even like extreme metal and hardcore, and which I mean they're definitely my favorite genres. My favorite genres outright are punk and hardcore, but I did it to the point where I boxed myself into a corner. Like for instance, we're just gonna take a little look see at something here. My best video, or maybe my second best video, but one of my best videos is called "What is Rap?" And it's a series I really want to start, and I might still try to do another one, where I take the question of like, what if nobody had ever heard this genre before? How would you describe it to them? And I just try to do that. It's like a really short, punchy 4 minute video, where I talk about like what is rap, and I got like so little views. Like I think I got 20 views. Yeah, I got 20 views, and that's about what my podcast gets. But I understand like sometimes I get good ones, like the one with Alex for a couple of ways. I got like 50 views on that, but like I have other videos like we're just gonna go to uh we'll use this one. We'll use, where is it, why noise matters, where I talk about noise and noise core and why the genre matters. And that video got 300 views and did pretty well. A lot of people like that video because it's weird like that. I think that's the thing, is that like people don't see rap as weird, even if what I'm reviewing or talking about is weird. Like, sorry about my dog. Like for instance, like Brockhampton is a weird band. They're weird guys. But like if I say like just talking about rap or whatever, people don't really care. People just don't care because it's not like a weird, interesting genre to them. But if you like know what you're talking about, or know what know your salt about rap can be really weird. And honestly, if I'm being honest, I said I got roasted so hard for this opinion last time I said it. I posted on Facebook because there was this whole like trend going around Facebook, and like I think probably like Twitter too or something, but like post your most controversial opinion or whatever. And mine was that rap will always be more experimental than any rock, punk, metal genre will ever be. Rap will always be more experimental than any alternative genre. And I got fucking roasted, which was really funny because here's the thing. What like extremely experimental, like never really done before band can you say personally you've liked from like a rock or metal or punk or whatever genre band can you say? Because I have a million like rap artists who I can talk about with that, but you don't really have a million other like rock, metal, whatever the fuck, punk, whatever bands that you can like just be like, yeah, they're extremely experimental and they try new things. Like, because a lot of the times what it really comes down to, and especially in the rock and metal, especially in metal has a really bad issue of this. But it's like lazy experimentation. And what I mean by that is they take two genres and they mash them together and then they just do that. And not saying that that's bad. In fact, I like a lot of stuff that does that. Like, I mean, folk punk's one of my favorite genres ever, and it's in the fucking name. But rap, I think, has true experimentation. I mean, you have bands like Death Grips and Clipping and 100 Gex and fucking Brockhampton and Slow Tie, and you have artists like MF Doom and like Andre 3000 and fucking Madlib, and you know, all of these other like rappers who are just fantastic and also experimental in their own ways. And I don't think you get that in punk or metal. I think what you get in punk and metal is taking something another subgenre does and putting it in the subgenre that you want to play. I mean, that's what my band did. Like, we thought we were being like quirky and experimental when we played, but like, no, we just took Thal and put it into a deathcore atmosphere, or in a hardcore atmosphere. That's all we did. I mean, we just took like Thali breakdowns and just were like, what if we put that in like drop tuning from deathcore into like a hardcore atmosphere? And that's just all we did. But like, I think you get a lot more of that than you'll ever get of anything like truly experimental in punk and metal, because I think punk and metal by definition doesn't have a lot of wiggle room. Punk and metal is not only like one of the most categorized genres of music ever, but is also very rigid in a way for what like is defined by those things. Like, I mean, and listen, everybody has different opinions. Like, everybody has different opinions. Like, you can make an argument for all technicalities that like Black Tongue is like a black metal band almost, because they have black metal influences. I don't think they are, personally. I still think they're like a down-tempo band, but I still think that like I think that it's just hard to take something like let's use Black Tongue for instance. Like, it's hard to take Black Tongue, which if you guys haven't heard, they're like a very slow, down-tempo, atmospheric band that uses a lot of influence from drone and black metal. That's all it is. It's like deathcore with extra steps. But like, take that and you try to like make it experimental in some other way. Like, you try, I don't know, like let's say with them you try to put like an 808, I don't know, like an 808 like bass line in it with like trap cymbals for whatever reason. Like, let's just say they want to get quirky with it. That not only will be hated by all their fans, not only be absolutely fucking despised by all their fans, but it also will just be like, oh, now they're just trap metal. And it's like, no, like, you know what I mean? Like, metal is so compartmentalized that there's no room for true experimentation and true expression. And that's true, Retro Rose, what you said. Yeah, like punk, we don't follow the rules, but if we change anything, it's not punk. Oh god, it's so funny because like I love punk. Punk is my first love ever. Punk is one of my favorite genres. It was the thing that got me into alternative music in general. God, is gatekeeping so awful in the punk like genre. Like, it is so awful in the punk genre in general. And I mean, there's a history behind why. Because like pop punk sprung up and got really popular, and then they were like, we're true punk, and then everyone in the punk genre was like, no, you're not, like, you're pop punk. But because they were mad and angry, they were like, no, you're not even fucking pop punk, fuck you, you know, whatever. And it became like a whole thing. 90s and 2000s punk is my jam. Yeah, that's good shit, man. I love 90s punks. I mean, I love 80s punk more, but like that's because it's what I grew up on. So I have like a nostalgia attachment to it, like that good Dead Kennedys, that good Black Flag, that sort of stuff. But like it's the gatekeeping in the punk community is so aggravating. Like if I walked into a venue as I am dressed right now, which as I am dressed, I'm wearing a Dying Fetus hoodie. I am wearing a Misfits shirt, and I am wearing a Cut Both Ways hat, which is a hardcore band. I would be laughed out of the venue because if there were gatekeepers there, because I'm not true. I'm not showing my true punk form, bro. And it's like, oh, fuck yourself. I can like other kinds of music. I probably mix up my genres of punk. 80s punk is probably mixed in, and I just see it as 90s punk. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. I mean, 90s punk is like what was the thing that got like really really popular, because like 80s punk was popular, but not like to the point that like 90s punk was, because 90s punk was like household name type shit, whereas like 80s punk was just kind of was like, oh, if you like music, you've heard of these bands, you know what I mean? Like there's a bit of a difference. But yeah, no, like he low-key mixed grunge into punk because of reasons. That's fair. I mean, grunge does spawn from like post-punk, so I mean it makes sense. um but like see what I just did there. Like I just categorized, oh god, like that's the issue. That's why punk and like metal will not be ever as experimental as and free as like rap is, because yeah, we are the problem. Because like I am, especially I am the fucking problem when it comes to that, because rap is just rap. Rap is just like, oh, are you like, there's like I mean, not really, but there's like 10 subgenres. There's not that many subgenres of rap. Whereas metal, you could write a fucking Bible about the millions of different subgenres and all the like categorizations. And it makes it so that like it gives the feeling of nothing is special. Like nothing can be special in punk or metal, because there's another band that probably sounds similar because it's been categorized. Whereas like, I think personally that like you don't get 100 gex if you don't have death grips, for instance. They're not the same, but they're very similar. But they would probably be without the subgenre already like categorizing them as different. They would probably be in the same subgenre for the most part, if 100x didn't auto-tune the fuck out of their voices, that is. But like I don't know, like I could go on, like here's the difference. I can go onto a rap playlist and I can have Death Grips, and I can have Ghost Main, and I can have 100 gex, for instance, let's just say that, and I can have like Slow Tie and Token and Jordan Lucas, and I can have like, let's use Bones. I can have Bones and Lil Peep. And for the most part, no one in my generation, at least, will like give a fuck. Everyone will be like, yeah, that's rap. Like, it's a little weird, but that's rap. But like, if I say like, oh, this is my hardcore playlist, and I put on like Knocked Loose and Code Orange and Sea Space Cowboy, and I put on like 156 Silence, and I put on Turnstile and like Converge and Norma Jean, like, people would be like, yeah, it's like basically hardcore. But then if I put on like, I don't know, let's say Chelsea Grin, I'm gonna get fucking like murdered with words. Like I'm going to have someone's going to have a stern talking with me. And that's the issue, is that like, oh my god, that's the issue. Is that like rock and metal and punk are too categorized, because even though deathcore and hardcore sound pretty similar, like in terms of musicality, like like you just down tune everything basically, and that's how you get like hardcore and deathcore. But like the difference between hardcore and deathcore, if you just down tune hardcore, you basically get deathcore. But like even though they're like very similar, you will like get eaten alive if you like categorize a deathcore band with a hardcore band as the same. You'll get fucking eaten alive. And it's like, and that's the issue, is that like there's no true freedom, because even though they're similar, they're different. You know what I mean? Whereas with like rap, you can just say like rap, and people like generally know what you're talking about. I don't know. It's just, I have opinions. I have opinions, and I think rap is more expressive in terms of like experimentation. I don't think you get experimentation like death grips and clippings in metal. There's very few that I can think of. There's like one that comes to the top of my head is like Igor, but like you get very little of that, cause like it's already, I don't know, cause like the thing is with metal is that like a lot of times it has already been done and we just aren't making like the connection. You know what I mean? Like making the argument, for instance, that like Infinite Annihilator is completely unique is a false argument, because like Necrophagist was before them and they were kind of similar. And you know what I mean? Like you can go down that whole like rabbit hole of just like, well, they aren't like that because this happened before, and they aren't like that because this happened before. Whereas like I think it's a bit harder to make that argument for like experimental rap. I don't know. I may be totally off on this, but that's just what I kind of like have thought up in my think pan in general. I kind of want to talk about something else. I think I'm going to talk about gatekeeping in music. Let's talk about gatekeeping in music and how fucking annoying they are. People who gatekeep in music are really annoying. Like, oh, well, you say you like this genre, but you don't like it, and I can tell because of this, this, and this. And what fucking, it's so dumb. Like every time I go to a punk show, and I'm like, and there's like people I don't know there, they always look at me fucking weird because I'm not wearing like a punk vest, and I'm not wearing like, I don't look as crusty as the rest of them. So they're like, and I'm usually probably wearing like some hardcore shirt or some like grindcore shirt or something. So they kind of look at me like, oh, that's weird. And then like, you know, I start vibing and they're like, oh, okay, yeah. But like there shouldn't even be like a, oh, that's weird. Cause like it's not too dissimilar. So why do you care? Like, that's my issue, is that like, and like, okay, let's think back to the cringiest like time period of being like a music fan, where like people would go up to you if you were wearing a band shirt and be like, oh yeah, bro, well, can you name all like 7 of their original members, and then name the 5 lost like demos that only like probably real fans know, but like name the demo names, not the names that got put onto the album. If you don't like that, then like you're just a fake fucking fan. And it's like, God, it's so annoying. I hate people like that. Luckily, that doesn't exist as much anymore. It's still around, but not like as egregious as it used to be. But fuck, I just hate those people. I just want to pit them. They're just annoying, and I used to be guilty of that. I used to do that to people, and it's like, why? Why are you so stupid past me? It's like the shit that keeps me up at night. It's just like reliving those like moments and being like, oh, that's so cringe. And like, I think it's really bad where I'm from, because like I live in it and or near Seattle. So like everyone, like anyone that wears a Nirvana shirt, it's like, ooh, do you actually like Nirvana or do you like Smells Like Teen Spirit? Ooh, it's like, who fucking cares? Let them like what they like. Let them wear what they want. Go fuck yourself. Like, oh my god. It's so aggravating. It's so absolutely aggravating just to like exist in that like sphere. You know what I mean? Because it's like, bro, I just want to vibe. Like, I don't want to have to go through the entire discography of Full of Hell if I'm wearing my Full of Hell shirt, okay? I just kind of want to vibe and chill with the boys. And I just kind of want to experience what I'm like doing right now. I don't have to be thinking about like, oh, the drummer at 10 years old got bullied so hard that he started to learn drums. Oh, so now I have to go tell this person all the life story of this drummer to be perceived as a real fan, whereas in all actuality, you are a real fan, they're just a fucking prick. Oh, it's so goddamn frustrating. And it's like it's really bad in like the punk genre. In punk in particular, it's really bad. I mean, in grindcore it's bad too, but it's more memed in grindcore. It's not they're more ironic about it in a lot of ways, between like fake grind and real grind. Like they're more. I feel like that like community is more ironic about their like gatekeeping, and so it makes it kind of okay. Whereas like punk is just so fucking annoying and egregious about it. It's just so bad. God, it's so bad. All right, getting off of music for a second. I'll talk a little bit about something I did the other day. Probably what I should have opened with instead of just shooting into some really nerdy music stuff. But you know how I do. Um, I left my house the other day. Um, my friend, his apartment building was testing the fire alarms in their building, and he has a dog and a cat, and they get really freaked out when that happens. Rightfully so. The apartment's suddenly strobing, and there's loud noises. So he was like wanting to get them out of the house for a bit, and so he hit me up and was like, "Hey, Tucker, would you want to like come hang out with me and my dog and like go do something? I don't know." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I haven't left my house in months aside from like going to work and obligations, so this should be interesting. And we like met up, and then we went to Woodby Island, which for people who don't know what Woodby Island is, it's an island like close to the, I mean, it's like almost connected. It's like almost connected to to the mainland, but not really. You can go up and like go through Deception Pass to get up there in the Woodby, but we just took a ferry, and we went up there and we drove around a bit, and we were gonna go to this restaurant, but the restaurant was closed. So instead we just like bought some food at this like farm. We literally went to this farm. I think it was called like Three Sisters Farm or something like that. And the farm was like, it was literally 500 yards away from the store, that like the storefront that they sell all their products at. So it's all fresh as fuck, boy. And like, and so like we went there and I bought some stuff and it was cool. I bought some beer from Levin that was brewed in like Leavenworth. It was like German beer. It's pretty good. Um, and then I just was like, we were just vibing. We bought some good food. We went to a park. We were like sitting eating the food before we were gonna take his dog out and like walk her and make sure she goes to the bathroom and all that fun stuff. Um, and then like he asked his roommate like, "Hey, did the fire alarms go off?" Because we were like, "Oh, we should probably go back soon so that he could pick up his cat because he left his cat with his mom. Whereas, but his mom's also in the apartment, so he didn't want to leave the dog with her too because it would have been cramped." Um, and then his roommate texts back and says, "Oh, they never went off." So Jeremy was like, oh, what the fuck? That's weird. And then checked the email they sent him. And the email said 48-hour notice of Thursday the 25th. I think, is that correct? The 25th? Yeah, the 25th. And so then he was like, wait a minute. That says Thursday the 25th, but the top says a 48-hour notice of entry. What the fuck? Did you give me a 48-hour notice a week in advance? And so yeah, no, they were doing it this upcoming week, not last week. And so we just kind of like went out to Whidbey Island and like vibed. And, for no reason. And like took his dog with us for like no reason. It was a big oof. And then like on our way back, we went to Best Buy because he needed to buy some new headphones, or new headset for his computer. And while there, I was looking in their audio section just because I'm a nerd, and I saw they had a vinyl player. I was like, oh, fucking poggers, dude. And I was looking through it and I was researching it a bit online to make sure it wasn't like fucked, and it wasn't. And so I bought a vinyl player. I bought a record player. So now I was finally able to listen to my vinyls, which I have 4 of. I have 1000 Gex by 100 Gex. I have Long Live by The Chariot. I have, this is my partner's actually. They have Bridge City Sinners, most recent album. And then I have 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. Their live album. I forget what the live album specifically is called, but their live album for that album. And they all sound really good. And I'm excited because this is the first time I've ever like really gotten into vinyl, because vinyl is something I knew was going to be a money pit for me, and I didn't want to do it. But then I did it, and it's a money pit, and I want more. I want so much vinyl, dude. Oh my god, I want so much vinyl. I don't even know like what I would necessarily want next. I just want more. I have a couple ideas, but I just want more vinyl. It's really all. I just want more vinyl. Otherwise though, I haven't really been doing much life-wise. Been finishing up my like finals. Been finishing up my last couple weeks in school. As you can see from the bags under my eyes, I'm dying. I flopped my sleep schedule onto a day sleep schedule, which I'm about to have to flop back to a night schedule. And I hate my life because tonight I'm going to be really fucking tired. But I'm just going to have to deal with it and hopefully not have a heart attack. Hopefully. But probably will. Because I will be consuming copious amounts of energy drinks to deal with it. And it's going to suck. Well, I think I have run out of things to talk about. I think I'm going to cut this one a little short. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut it a little short. Oh, you know what's funny? So, I forgot to hit record locally, so I'm going to have to use the Twitch bot for this. So this might sound and be a little bit different, and I apologize if it is. But anyways, I'm going to cut it short. We are going to raid somebody. Oh yeah, before that though, thank you guys for listening to The Wiretap. If you want to listen to this live, come to twitch.tv/quartz_TV. I stream there somewhat often. And I do many things other than just The Wiretap. I, live stream games, and I do some stuff like that. If you want to see more of my content, or you want to watch this back later, it will be on youtube.com/c/quartztv. And and it's on all audio platforms under The Wiretap. I think it's on like Spotify, Apple, Breaker, Google Podcasts, all that fun stuff. There should be a link tree if you're watching later down below. Hey, thanks, buddy. I think think that'll be it for this podcast. I think I'm gonna cut it like 3 minutes short, but it was a good one.